Hi, I'm Matt from HockeyReviews.ca, and this is the Rezztek stick tape replacement. I don't exactly know what to call this, but you put it on your blade instead of tape. Pretty straightforward. So now there's going to be two parts of this video. There's going to be the goalie stick part, which I'll put after, and you can just see it in the description, as well as like the little show sections below of where that is. Beginning part is going to be for the player blade, because I feel like these should really be split out, but why do two videos for it? Just put it all into one. So we'll ignore this one for a little bit, and we'll talk specifically about this. So before we jump into this, this was supplied to me by Rezztek, and the link is in the description to them and their Instagram accounts. They sent me a 2-pack of player tape, so basically just this one, which is how it comes retail. So it's a 2-pack of this, so you get obviously a replacement one, as well as the goalie tape as well, and the applicator, which doesn't normally come with it. You have to buy it separately, and we'll kind of talk about that as well during this whole review. If you're in the market for any hockey equipment and you want to support the channel, check out the links in the description. If you're in the US, to Pure Hockey. If you're in Canada, to Hockey Supremacy. Clicking those links and making a purchase gives me a kickback, helps support the channel so I can keep making more videos and doing more reviews. Otherwise, check out Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon to help support the channel so I can make more content like this. Everything that goes through any of those links and those websites always come back into the channel and always helps make more content. So off the bat, applying this is pretty straightforward, and there's videos to do it online, and I'm not going to just reiterate that and regurgitate it because the Rezztek video is simple enough. All you have to do is you take off the sticky side, make sure your blade is pretty clean of like any tape residue and stuff like that. I use soap and water and just dried it off with a paper towel. And then you place it on, and it says do middle out. So you just kind of line it up where you want it, go the middle, and then kind of go out. And then you use a roller to roll down the edges to make it flat as possible across the whole thing. Now they say this doesn't come off again, you're not to reuse it. But when I did it on the goalie stick, I actually broke the first goalie stick it was on within like 2 uses. It had nothing to do with this. It broke up here from a shot. So I ripped it off and put it on this one. So this tape was actually reapplied, and it had a little bit of a bump in the back, but then this stick broke right after anyways. So, and that's why I had this tape here just to hold on, because this side wasn't sticking down. Obviously they tell you not to reapply it, and that's fine. But what I did with this one was a little different. When I reapplied it, instead of using this, I just used a puck. So I did this with a puck and rolled it on to flatten it out, and it worked okay. There was still some bunching up on it, but again, this was a reapplied version, so I kind of expected it not to be perfect. The roller definitely works a lot, and if you're going to be doing this over and over again, it's not a bad thing to pick up. You could just use a paint roller if you had one too, but this isn't a bad thing to pick up if you're going to like constantly do it and you're going to use Rezztek all the time and switch it out every 10 games or so. But worst case, you can just use a puck and use other things you see around. But the roller's nice and it's useful, but we'll get that out of the way. We'll jump into like what the point of this is, and I'm sure some people already know it, but we'll talk about it anyways. The idea of this is to get rid of tape and stop using tape, but as you can see, they always say it's like basically a better design for less energy loss and a faster shot. Somewhere it says they have a percentage of how much faster your shot is and everything. I don't really care about that marketing, and honestly, without testing it in a super scientific way with a like shooting stick thing like they do for golf clubs, you're not going to get a true idea of how fast those shots are and the difference between using tape and non-tape. Maybe Rezztek did that when they say we got the science. I don't really care because people aren't really robots, and honestly, if this was a 5% increase in shot power, if it screws up the feel of the blade, it's not worth the transition to me. So I'm just going to talk about how I felt it played and everything like that, regardless of the science. They can prove it. That's fine. Check them out for that if you're interested in that. But I'm going to talk about how it felt with me for using it, because I don't have a scientific method of testing it, so I'm not going to do that. So for durability and kind of, it ends up being for the price on this too. This ends up being, I think, $34.99 for a 2-pack in Canada, or $30 US for a 2-pack. And these are supposed to last between 8 to 10 games. But Rezztek says once it's like, I think it was 80%. I can't remember the exact percentage. I'll put it up here. Of the tape is kind of destroyed, you're supposed to replace it. Now, here's the thing about that. This is going to probably be considered destroyed, but I can still use it. And honestly, I have noticed no ill effects. Now, other people are going to notice something. Now, if like this is a skate cut, obviously someone stepped on it, or more accurately, I accidentally tripped someone and their blade went on it and it cut it. But it doesn't actually like really get in the way, and I haven't noticed that being an issue at all. So unlike I noticed with tape when it kind of folds up and everything, with this, it's not like a big enough real difference for me to notice this. Now, some definitely are, like this piece sticking up. If that was down there, that would definitely be an issue. And then this part kind of peeling up here. But this, I still don't really need to replace this. And they might say you should replace it, and some people would want to. But I have noticed no ill effect when using this at all in its current state. And I use this for a while now. Again, I'll put up here when I got it, and I've been using this stick basically 2 times a week, and it's been my primary stick, but I have been switching to other ones. We'll talk about that in a second for these, and just like testing this against those. But like durability, I've been pretty impressed. This has lasted way longer than 8 to 10 games that they say. Now, I'm easier on my sticks than some people. I don't smash them. I generally don't trip people except for that odd time, and like I take care of my gear, and I don't go crazy hard with this stuff. So for me, it's going to last longer than someone who's playing like 7 times a week, trying out for AAA or playing like stuff like that, right? I'm not at that level. I'm an adult. I play for fun. So obviously that's going to last less than what this is. But this has held up pretty good, and I'm like pretty satisfied with it. And again, I'm not even going to take this off because it doesn't really need to. Even if it looks all beat up, it still plays fine, and I've noticed no bad results with it. But just be wary of like what they recommend. And obviously they're going to go, I think, on a conservative side of that in terms of 1, getting you to take these off and replace it. So more product. 2, just so like if this does rip and come off, like something like this, they might get you to replace it just in case that affects your shooting, so you don't have a negative experience with the actual product. The other thing about durability, and they do include obviously 4 pieces for a 2-pack, but chances are the back of your blade isn't going to be used as much as the front of the blade, right? So why not just use more back of the blade? Now, obviously, 1, it would be backwards, so that would kind of suck. You would have to do it like that. But even then, you could honestly just work with it or cut it. If you cut it down the middle and you want to kind of swap sides so it would be better, that way you get more life out of the 2-pack and you're going to get more use out of it, right? That way you can put this part over here so it's a bit taller just by cutting in the middle and then swapping it around, because it wouldn't be kind of angled like that, right? So you can work ways around to making this last longer and by reusing that back blade. Because as you can see, my backhand is considerably better shape, minus that 1 piece, than what the front is. So why take the back one off? Just keep reusing it and like get longer life out of it. It's still expensive, by all means. It's very expensive. And if you get a cut through and it pulls it off by a skate or something, just pulls it, you're out of luck, and that's kind of the problem. But it's unfortunately the aspect of hockey. Now, for actual performance and feel, we have 3 geos here, and this is what I was doing for testing. So I was bringing 3 sticks to games often, and was basically doing tape, blank blade, and then Rezztek, and comparing them to and putting them side by side. So the thing I noticed really quickly was this was my least favorite by far. One of the things Rezztek talks about is blades don't have the texture on it for gripping pucks. But that's not really the case, I find, much more on blades, because they all kind of have this texture to it now. Like most stick companies have this now, and it's kind of the process of how they finish it. Instead of like putting a gloss over it, they kind of stamp it, and you get this interesting coating and finish. And that honestly feels great. And you would think that that would be good enough. But I noticed that my puck handling was worse with this. I just lose pucks off it all the time. I would lose passes off it all the time, and just like puck feel was okay, but everything else just felt more natural and better to me. Now, maybe I'm just really used to tape, but this definitely was my least favorite of it. So, I mean, they're onto something there. Now, onto tape, obviously it's tape, right? So you get tape. One of the things that Rezztek talks about is it removes the tape at the bottom of the blade, so you get less friction, unnecessary friction, they say, at the bottom of the blade. Now, the stock blade is totally fine just by the way it is. Like, I don't notice it really sliding out too much. And tape, going back and forth, it wasn't a big deal or issue at all. And if you think about it, if you use like a toe piece right here, so that's like the only part that you tape, which a lot of people are doing now, or then some people are going like here and doing that one strip here, the whole blade down here is going to be exposed anyways, so you're not really having that friction there anyway. So I kind of think that's kind of a bad argument to get rid of this. On top of that, you can just tape like here, right? You don't have to go to the bottom, or you can be crazy and really ugly and tape it that way if you want to remove that friction. But I don't think that's actually an issue. Now, I have used tape products in the past, like tape replacement products, specifically Sniper Skin, that was pure garbage. That basically this was even more slippery than carbon was, and it was like almost a plastic feeling, and you try to shoot and you couldn't load. Every time you went to load, the stick would just slide out from underneath it. Not a problem whatsoever with this. This works totally fine just with the normal blade, and people have been using basically bare bottoms because of how they tape sticks anyways, so it's not a big deal. And honestly, I didn't notice a big difference between this and like taped. It's a slight difference, but it's not like something crazy, and it's not going to change your game for the better or make you a better hockey player or anything like that. One thing I did notice on this stick really quickly from using it is I kept losing puck stick handling, and I was really surprised at that. This obviously does have like a material to it, right? There's stuff in here, and they talk about it on their website, and you can kind of see it here, right, where it's like strong fiber mesh for maximum durability and resin for minimum loss. I was surprised that something this thin can really have an effect compared to tape on how puck feel is. And like when I was stick handling, I just noticed when I was moving the puck around, it would just bounce a little too far and I'd just lose it. Now after a while, and once I got comfortable with it, that went away, and this was totally normal to be using, and I got totally used to it, and my stick handling went back to how it was, my passing went back to how it was in terms of control and everything, and so it wasn't an issue. It was just more of a learning curve type thing. So obviously if you're going to use this, you're going to have to get used to it a little bit, and that's fine. Now when I go from tape to that, I have zero issues using other sticks and stuff. I'm used to it now, and I'm totally used to the feeling, so it doesn't happen to me anymore. Kind of along the same lines, I was surprised at how much this did affect puck feel, and how much you could really actually notice it and feel it when you're playing. Now, I put this on my favorite basically stick to use right now, and the Nexus Geo, and the reason I love the Geo is because of that puck feel. It's a dampened puck feel. I love it for passing, and I love it for stick handling, and shooting, it's just okay, but passing and shooting is why I love this stick so much. Putting this on here, and it's like so thin, so you're kind of surprised that this is a thing, but putting this on a Geo, definitely, it doesn't stiffen the blade up, but you can feel it, and it becomes a more pingy blade, which isn't necessarily a great thing, but it depends what you're looking for. And on top of that, the thing I noticed the most with this is my passes became so much more crisp. And by all means, I love passing with the Geo, and I do it well, and I love that feel. But when I went to this, everything just felt more crisp and more like, I'm not gonna say perfect because the end result is there, but when you make that perfect pass and that perfect hard pass, or receive that perfect hard pass with this, it honestly just felt better. And obviously better is subjective, and what does that mean? It just felt like it came off harder for all the passes that I made. Just felt like there was a little bit more oomph to it and a little more zip, and you could hear it as well, which is kind of an interesting thing. Now, how do you hear that? It definitely noticed a difference. If I went from one to the other, I instantly noticed I was using a different blade, even without looking at it. Obviously, you can tell what it is, but I would instantly notice and feel going from this to one of these, and that was pretty impressive. And again, that puck feel and that passing is what was the big part for this to me, and why I liked it, but really noticed that this is actually making a difference over normal tape. And I was really surprised at that. I thought it was going to be something like a gimmick type thing and doesn't really do a lot, but I noticed it, I felt it, and my passes with this, I definitely like more than if I wasn't using it. So that is saying a lot, especially for me. And like I said, while it's a puck feel thing, and even though this is making my favorite stick a little bit more pingy on the blades, if I had a choice, I am going to sacrifice that little bit dampened feel, because this just does feel like pucks come off a little bit better, and not even just necessarily harder, but just zingier, and the responsiveness of this just feels like it's a little bit more there. Obviously, it's a really thin thing, and it's not like going to be game changer or anything, but I liked the feel of it, and it was very nice in that regards. So even when using like this wooden ball and using Rezztek versus the just no tape at all, you can feel the Rezztek on there more. It almost feels like there's a hard piece on top of the blade compared to this one. Now obviously there's like no dampening on this stick because there's no tape there, and tape's not going to be a huge dampening thing, but the Rezztek makes it almost feel like there's something stiffer in it, and that the blade is more like reactive to it. I shouldn't say reactive, because reactive sounds like the blade's doing something, but it just seems like it's an instant feedback on this one, and like a harder feedback than what is on with no tape. They talk about like puck control on it, and obviously this is kind of like a grippy tape. You can kind of hear it, you can see my nail getting run on it, and with a puck, that's kind of what happens, right? Compared to a thing with tape where it's a lot more smooth, and you can still hear a puck on it, but it is considerably more grippy than tape. I didn't notice more spin or anything being put on anything, but you definitely didn't notice the feel difference, and just like the pinginess specifically, more so than I would say the grip. Stick without tape or anything on it, even though it does have that finish, is kind of the only place where I notice pucks coming off of this more than what these were. And obviously, again, personal preference thing, and your mileage will totally vary. But for me, I didn't like this nearly as much as tape and the Rezztek. I feel like that grip is a little bit better on what these two offer than what this is, even though this should be pretty good, and you can hear it, it should be pretty good. But for me, these two were definitely my favorites in that, and I would pass on the blank, even with the texture like this. So I think Rezztek is onto something there. Now on to shooting. This is where they say there's a percentage in their science to develop it. You notice the puck feel when you're shooting because of what this is, but I didn't notice my shots were considerably harder with this than it was with anything else. If I got a nice shot off, it felt like a nice shot. Same with using tape, same with using no tape. There was a little bit more pinginess to the shot, but it wasn't like, it felt like the pucks were coming off considerably harder or really harder at all. So I can't really say that this is going to do a ton there. Now, I don't take a lot of slap shots. So if I don't take like any slap shots at all, it's not my thing. And I'm all snapshot wrist shots from the point, keeping it low type thing. So maybe that's another thing that people would get onto. I tested this with slap shots, but again, I didn't notice anything crazy with it compared to, like, I really noticed it with puck feel for stick handling and passing. Not nearly as much for shooting, and it wasn't like I needed to have that on to make a shot. So in that sense, it's kind of I could take it or leave it. So when we're talking about accuracy on this for shooting, because Rezztek says it makes you more accurate, I noticed no difference between this and tape. I do notice a little worse just because of this. I do find without the anything on there, just the bare blade, pucks don't really seem to grip it enough compared to what this is and what this is. For this, my accuracy was the same. It felt no different. I shot and it was like the variance was what it was. It was generally going where I was expecting it to go. I'm not an elite level sniper. My whole game is pass and breakout and defense. But when I was making the shots, they were going generally where I was going. It wasn't something wild or anything like that. There is definitely a learning curve with this and kind of like a trial curve, if you will, in a few games. It took me about, I would say, 2 to 3 skates until I stopped losing the puck on it and got used to it. Specifically for puck handling. For shooting and everything, it was just, I went out and shot and it was fine. Like, I didn't make a big difference. You definitely feel a difference in terms of like how this feels and this feels when shooting. But it didn't feel, or like I didn't have to adjust my aim or didn't change my accuracy or anything like that. It was the same. But definitely the puck feel and like how the puck bounces off the blade from just stick handling and receiving passes and stuff, that did take a bit more to get used to. And then even now, this isn't my primary anymore because I'm reviewing newer sticks. I have no issues going back to this and using it. It's like I kind of just automatically adjust to it and I'm used to how it's going to come off harder. So it's in my head. Whereas when I first used it the first time, a few times, it definitely did have a little bit of like stone hands and things with pucks would hit it and it would kind of just like bounce a little too far, and now it's fine and it's awesome and I really like it. So on to the conclusion for the player stick version itself. These aren't cheap. That's just how it is. They're $34 Canadian for a 2-pack, right? Which is supposed to last you anywhere between 16 to 20 games. It's a lot of money. That's not cheap. Hockey isn't cheap. And I definitely do believe that there are benefits to this and I like using it. There's a bunch of pros using it and I posted that on Instagram and stuff of different pros using it. And Rezztek will tell you about the people using it. I definitely feel that there is a benefit to it and I like it. And I like using it. If I had to choose between this tape, if I had to choose between the Rezztek and the tape or the non-tape, I would easily take the Rezztek every time. It just feels that nice little like oomph. It just feels like it has that much, a little more responsiveness to it in the shots, and my passes and like stick handling is a little bit more zippy. But it's not a big enough difference. I feel like it's really changing how I play or anything like that. So for this, would I recommend it? I recommend people trying it to see if it's going to be some crazy thing that you like. It's obviously a personal preference thing. Like I said, I'm going to keep this on here. I'm going to keep using it until I can't use it anymore. But I'm honestly not going to buy another one to swap it out. One, I use too many different sticks. So me swapping sticks all the time, it's a lot of Rezztek for that. It's a little too much for me. And two, like I said, I like the feel. I like that zip feel to it. But it's not making my game or doing anything crazy. So you're super, super picky on how puck feel is and how your play feels. This is definitely an option and people are definitely going to like it and use it. But for me, it's just not a big enough change for me to say I'm going to use this all the time and I'm totally behind this and buying packs and packs and packs of them. I really wish they did like a big discount for these. So basically if you bought like a 20 pack or a 10 pack, it brought the price down to like maybe $7-ish a piece. Then it would be easier to swallow. But at the current price, like $34 for 2 of these, that's tough. It's expensive, and tape is super cheap. And again, I believe the performance is there. The feel is definitely there. The zippiness of the passing and everything is definitely there. And I would definitely go to it if money was no option. But unfortunately, money is an option, and money is always important. And the whole world drives around money. So that is tough for me. And I personally am not going to just keep buying these over and over again to put on my sticks. I'm going to use these up, and then that's probably going to be it. I do believe in it. I think it's a solid performing product. If performance is your ultimate goal all the time and money is no object, by all means, absolutely put that thing on there. And if it isn't, like most of the world and probably most people watching this, maybe you can stick to tape and it won't be that big of an issue. Now, before we jump into the goalie portion of this video, if you want to support the channel and you're buying hockey equipment anyways, check out the link in the description if you're in the US to Pure Hockey and Pure Goalie. If you're in Canada, to Hockey Supremacy, clicking that link and making a purchase gives me a kickback so I can keep making more content and doing more reviews. Everything through there will always come back in the channel, help me make more content and make more videos. Now, like I said, this was originally on my Bauer Hyperlight stick. Unfortunately, my Hyperlight broke down here, so I had to peel it off and put it onto this stick. And then this stick broke within a game, right where you can see it right there, and cracked all the way through the blade, so we're kind of stuck with it. It wasn't the Rezztek that did it. I want to make that really straightforward. Rezztek also does not recommend taking these off and peeling them on another stick, obviously. It doesn't stick as well. The adhesive is kind of gone. It took chunks out of my Hyperlight, as in like chunks of this were left on my Hyperlight, and then some of the clear coat on the Hyperlight also came off when I ripped it off. So don't swap it. It's just, that's not the point, right? Now that's why I taped this, because this little corner was sticking up on one of the sides and I couldn't get it totally flushed down. When I put this one on, I used a puck and went like this instead of using the roller. I just wanted to see how it would work, and it worked fine. The roller works a little better, but the puck worked fine as well too. Now I think these are like 40 bucks Canadian for one of these, and with the player one you get multiple packs. The goalie one, it's just the one. There are some guys in the NHL, Rezztek uses this. You can get like custom things on there from their website for like logos or numbers and stuff like that. This is obviously just the retail one. Now, this is where I deviate a lot from the player stick. As a goalie, your main purpose is not shooting. And this is $40 for one of these. Now, I don't know how long this is going to last on a goalie stick compared to the player stick one, because unfortunately I couldn't use it long enough. I broke both sticks, and this one is totally gone, and I tried to peel some of this off and it just ripped out carbon like shreds or shards. So I'm not doing that, just to save my fingers, and you can see it really ripped through it right there. I don't see a purpose of going down this route for goalie sticks. Now, if you play the puck every 5 seconds and your entire game is puck playing and passing, and puck feels a big thing to you as a goalie, sure, go for this. But just like kind of butt ends and stuff on goalie sticks, where how much of the game is your hand up here and how much of your game is actually playing the puck. I saw people online say this made rebounds off the stick harder, so it was like easier to deflect in the corners, and I just, how? Obviously, I'm talking about puck feel. You can definitely feel this compared to like when you go on a dampened player blade. You can feel when pucks hit it different. It feels different because it does have like different materials and it's more pingy. That isn't going to drastically affect how pucks rebound off this into the corner. That's just crazy. Like I can't. I honestly see like zero purpose of this on a goalie stick, just like the butt ends. Again, if you're playing the puck all the time and you do some crazy moves with your hands and you shoot all the time and that is your main game, sure, try this out, see if you really like it. A couple goalies, like I think Rezztek is using it too. Rezztek and Rezztek are using it in the NHL. So go check it out. They use it, right? It's not going to change your game. It's not going to make your rebounds better. It's not going to make you stop pucks better. It's really expensive compared to just tape. And it's on the goalie stick. Like when I shot with my Hyperlight before it broke, it didn't feel like it shot better. It didn't come off pingier. It's not making a big enough difference in that sense for me to justify that. And it is what it is. Like I will easily say people should try out the player stick version, because I definitely noticed the difference in my hands when using it, and because you're always touching the puck, you're always making passes. With goalie, unless you're practicing just doing that, you're not touching the puck like players do all the time. And also with goalie, like directing the puck with your stick, the feel isn't as important as it is on like player sticks. Just because you're directing a hard shot, like you're not holding it on your stick and then making a pass. It's just on, off, gone. That's it. This isn't really massively affecting vibrations. They will be up here more. And like the core of the stick stopping from things from vibrating, that's going to be doing it more. So this is really hard for me to recommend at all. And I really question anyone that says this makes a huge difference on goalie sticks. Obviously, everything's personal preference and your mileage may vary. But for me, there's no way I can recommend spending $40 on a tape for goalie sticks. It's just kind of out there and there's way too much money for what it is. And specifically for goalie sticks, for how little the puck is actually on your blade doing anything. So that's about it for my review of the Rezztek blade tape alternative, whatever it's called. It's kind of cool. These are now on the market. They've been used by pros for a while and people were kind of talking about it and it was only a pro only option. So it's nice that these are on the market now. Like I mentioned here, easily recommend this, at least to try it out. Me personally, not going to keep going with it. Just too expensive for what it is on there and doesn't change quite enough. Obviously, the feel does change, and I do like how this feels specifically for passing, puck handling. That I really like how it feels and how it just makes everything feel a bit more zippy and just kind of crisp. Goalie stick, just I would say ignore hard. It's just you don't touch the puck enough. That's the gist of it. But definitely, I would definitely recommend checking out at least once for player sticks. See if you like it. Maybe it will be a thing where you can't get off of it. Otherwise, you spend, I guess, $40 is still not cheap, but it's $40. Just if you want to test something out, by all means, go for it. Huge thanks to Rezztek for sending me the setup to do a review. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to see me review any gear, let me know in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Rezztek, if you've used it, and how you feel it performs and plays, and if you're going to keep buying it. I'm really curious to see how people's thoughts hold up onto this. Yeah, so thank you very much for watching. Remember to like this video, subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Links are in the description for that. Buying any hockey related equipment or gear, check out the links if you're in the US to Pure Hockey. If you're in Canada, to Hockey Supremacy. Clicking those links, making a purchase gives me a kickback so I can make more content and doing more reviews. Otherwise, check out Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon. Everything through there comes right back into the channel so I can make more content and doing more videos. Thank you very much for watching and take it easy.
You're watching HockeyReviews.ca.